I know we just came off of a holiday week. Hopefully nobody's missing any fingers after the 4th of July. That's always a win. Kevin Ward, was this your first 4th of July, or did you get to experience a good old American Midwestern second one? How was it? If you'll unmute for me.
Actually, we missed this one because we went back to Canada for Canada Day. If you talk to my wife, I was quite disappointed with that because I wanted to stay, but she wanted to go. And guess who won that argument, right?
Well, yeah, happy wife, happy life.
Exactly. But it was good. So
good. I imagine this is the right time to visit Canada. Is this time of year?
it was cold actually when we went back. The highs were like 68 and 72 all week,
Okay.
and for us it's like 90, 94 here. So
Yeah.
actually we were wearing our sweaters and everyone was laughing at us. So it was kind of fun.
You're like, you don't get it. We live in the Midwest now. It is hot and humid.
Exactly. It's fantastic. We were happy to be home. So
Oh, shoot. Well, hopefully you still got to see some fireworks and celebrate.
we did. Yeah, no, it was good. So
Good. Well, team, what wins are we having here today? Personal, business, we'd love to hear it. What good is going on? If you will just unmute and share what's happening.
Do it.
We've got a win here. We are officially building our team at Summit Home Solutions. So going from solo to a duo for now, and hopefully, building up from there. But this is Maria, my new office manager and organization aficionado. So we're good and happy to get rocking.
Yes. Maria, we love having you here. We're so excited for you to be helping Riley and can't wait for this new season for the business. So big congratulations to you guys.
Yeah. Thank you.
What other wins are we having? Small, large, personal, business.
I got a win. I would like to say that I'm now officially Google guaranteed and hoping that's going to really help here soon with getting business coming in.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Spencer, that is so exciting. Spencer's within his first month here at Redmond Growth. And as some of you know who just went through the Google guaranteed process, it's a bit of a bear getting signed up. So we are very excited for you, Spencer, and can't wait to see those leads coming in. Riley, going back to you, one win that I mentioned to the team yesterday is your Google business listing is now in the top 3, so in the 3-pack for bathroom remodel Omaha, which is huge. And I think
to piggyback off of that, I've noticed, or not noticed, but we have had a pretty massive influx of leads. So I think we're hitting like that 6 to 7 month mark working with Redmond, where kind of just was waiting for it to take off. And I think we're definitely in that season of all the Google stuff catching up and the algorithm doing its thing. And I would say an overwhelming amount of leads coming in. So just been doing estimates like a madman, and hopefully going to be booking into the fall, into the end of the year, depending on how things go. So yeah, the Google thing's awesome, and certainly the juice is worth the squeeze for sure. So we appreciate you helping.
Yes, well, I appreciate you consistently getting those reviews. He's up to over 50 reviews now, and that's the biggest contributing factor with getting that listing to rank. And it's, like you said, taken 6 to 7 months, but now look at the results. What's 6 and 7 months in the entire duration of your business? Like, that's nothing. Josh, I see your hand up. If you want to unmute, tell us what's happening.
Yeah, good morning, guys. So I've been going through it with employees lately. The last month's been real rough. Still short-handed, and I think I went through 4 guys in the last 2 weeks. I hired this one kid, not very experienced, but he's a design major at a local university. Really good with 3D renderings. He's a brilliant photographer. Knows a lot about social media and stuff. He actually is pretty helpful on site, but the kid has been an absolute game changer. He's a pleasure to have around. And this kid is so bright. And just he's been a real game changer for me in like the simplest ways. So it's a huge win. He actually got me a big basement remodel. Already did 3D renderings for it, drawings. Like it's been a huge win for me this last couple of weeks. So
Yes.
That's awesome.
Josh, I love to hear it. All it takes is that one good find to kind of restore your faith in humanity. When you're going through that hiring process and you're like, God, we're just turning and burning them. All it takes is just that one, and you're like, okay, we're not lost.
Yeah. In the youth of today, too. Yeah, in the youth too. He's a very young guy, and man, he's I don't see a lot of kids like him these days, and it was refreshing. It was very nice.
Yes.
So yeah, yep.
Yes. They do
awesome.
exist. They do exist. It's far and few in between. But Josh, congratulations. Keep us updated on how that's going and how the new project goes. What other
Speaking
wins
of
have
that,
happened?
well, I was going to jump in real brief here, and then Jordan, I'll let you go. But Chris, I see you there, and I know we were talking about hiring recently. We just got an Indeed post up, and I was surprised by these results. I don't know if we've been able to hire anybody yet. You'll be able to speak to that, but in 24 hours, they had over 66 people apply to the job after we posted it, which is incredible. So, Chris, has any good applicants out of that, or is it all garbage?
We're still weeding through everything. Most of them are kind of far away. They're applying from, and we don't want people to have to commute an hour to get to the job. So that's where most of it's coming from right now. So we're trying to weed through a little bit. So.
All right.
Yes. Kind of like how sales is about sorting, so is hiring, especially when you get that many applicants,
Yeah.
So keep us posted on how that goes. Hopefully there are, some diamonds in there amongst the rest,
For sure. It's a similar thing with Riley's situation, right? Where he's got a lot more leads coming in. It's way better to have more than you need to be able to choose from and take the best than to have too few.
Yes. Jordan, I saw your hand
All right,
up.
Jordan,
What's going on?
Yeah, I was just going to say Travis and Robert both have really helped me to kind of refine my estimation process. And, I was doing most of the work. I just wasn't billing for overhead or for profit in the company or accounting for that in my estimates. And so I'm probably, I don't know, Travis can tell me, but I think we're probably a month and a half, 2 months in tops into doing it this way. And I will say it gives me so much more peace of mind when when we start projects, because I know we're going to actually make money on them, instead of feeling that rush, like all I have to do is go, the rush I'm talking about is trying to beat the time that I've been in for it. And so now I don't have to do that. And it's just making a huge difference for me.
Yes, Jordan, I can't wait to see how you're feeling here in a couple months after doing that. Seeing the cash flow difference, the profitability difference, what you're able to pay yourself, being able to invest back into the business. And I'll tell you, when we have clients with pricing issues, I would say half the time or more, it's because they are not counting their overhead and profit to their business. So you are not alone. If we have any clients here who are not pricing that way, use this as inspiration. Talk to your coach. It's not too late. There's never a good time to do it. We've just got to start doing it. So, Jordan, congratulations. Can't wait to hear in a couple of months how much better you're feeling.
Jordan also, I think Jordan had another win recently when he started offering financing. Jordan, can you tell a little bit about that? I think he did a pretty good sized job on that.
Yeah. So I had a client, and I'm using my new estimate tool. And with this client, I tried something a little bit new because we were talking about a lot of different options. And so I actually just shared my estimate tool with him, and we did a presentation. We were looking over it, and he goes, well, I think I'm going to do X, Y, and Z, but I'm going to cut these out. And I just simply mentioned, I was like, well, I don't know if it makes any difference to you or not, but we do offer financing. And he goes, you do? He was like, well, I probably would do all of it if we could get the financing. I was like, well, I can send you the link. And what's funny is he got some great offers, but it just got him thinking. So he went to his bank and just to see what they would offer him, and they offered him basically the same thing but with cash back. So what's funny is he didn't even use our financing, but just that simple, by having that as an option, got him headed down that direction. He did the whole thing. It was an $11,000 job. So it's great. And the guys are actually doing it this week, and we're going to make really good money on it. So, and it kind of ties in with the way I'm estimating. Like, I have so fewer questions from customers when I'm presenting now, because they know exactly where all the money's going. So a lot of those bubbles, those question bubbles, are already popped just by them being able to see it. Woo. And me being transparent about my quotes. And so that's going much easier. And that whole race to beat the time I bid, I don't have to do. Now I'm just looking at it and going, hey, you guys are right on target with the time we allotted for this, the time we allotted for that. I know we're going to be profitable, and it's working out really nicely.
Yes. Jordan. And I'm so glad that you
Thanks for reminding me, Travis.
Yes.
That's what he's here for half the time.
I'm so glad that you mentioned how whenever we tell clients, hey, you need to add overhead and profit onto your bid, one of the first questions that get asked is, oh my gosh, isn't the customer going to get so upset when they see what I'm making on this job? Or how do I hide that? Or how do people get away with that? And what you just said, people appreciate the transparency. You're a business owner. They know you're going to make money on the job. That's the whole point, you know? And so having a contractor fee, being transparent where they know how much is their cost of goods sold, that's going to allow you to close more deals. People see it as a hurdle when really it's a benefit. People love an honest contractor. That transparency is huge. It goes a long way. Yes, James, I see a hand up.
Yeah, I was just going to kind of elaborate on that just a little bit. Because prior to Redmond, I was doing something a little bit different. I was having a builder fee at the bottom of my estimate. And I've had several customers. It wasn't lined out the same way you guys had me line it out, but I'm doing that now. But I've had customers who are like, is this real? Are you serious? Is this serious? You're telling me how much money you're making? I was like, well, yeah. This is, absolutely. And they're like, man, you're so transparent, this. And I'm like, yeah, that's just the way I like to work. But one of the things that I learned when I started doing it, which kind of changed my thought process a lot about customers, is if they start to try to negotiate that price with you, they're not the customer you want, right?
Ooh, say it again.
They're, that's just going to get worse from there. If they don't think that you're worth what you're charging, I'm out. See you later.
Yes.
Yep.
We're about to have church up in here.
That's good.
Yes, that's exactly it. Because at that point, they're questioning your worth. They're questioning your value. Your prices are what you have to be to hit what you have to hit. That's just when we simplify pricing, that is what it is. And so it's not negotiable. We can change the scope of the work to better fit your budget, but we're not changing our margins. We're not changing our prices. And so I love, James, that you chimed in there. That again, just powerful. What other wins do we have today before we jump into questions?
We're starting. We've already got our second Google business profile up in Nashville proper now. So it's not fully set up, but we're actually we're there. We're getting it all working. So excited about that.
Oh, that is exciting. That's a whole new stage of your business, Jordan. Is we've dominated one area. Now we're going to dominate another. So congratulations. Okay. Any other wins? We'd love to hear it today, guys. Going once, going twice. Okay, let's get into it. What questions, issues, what did we learn this week that maybe we need to share with someone else so that they can tap into that wisdom? This is a great time. Either raise the hand, unmute, put it in the chat. Jordan, why don't you kick us off here?
Sorry, I have been pretty quiet the last few weeks. So I'm really vocal
You're
today.
good.
So I have an employee who's amazing, but for some reason can't stay away from the small fender benders. And my van has been the subject of a couple of those. One of them, I have no way of knowing if it was his fault, but he was on a narrow road and the mirror got like completely ripped off and kind of tumbled down the side of the van. And then the other one, I can't remember exactly what happened, but it damaged like right by the door where the gas cover is. But anyway, I'm kind of trying to figure out, what we can do. I've thought about getting a dash cam just to create some accountability for driving habits. Like he's in a position where he feels really bad right now, of course. He's not, it's not like he's, whatever. So, but just trying to figure out how to handle that. And like, I've been at companies, where if you damaged a company vehicle, the insurance got involved, they made you pay the deductible. I really haven't given it that much thought, but I'm starting to think about like, all right, how can we manage this? And what do things look like moving forward? Because he's got enough points on his record. I'm sure it's probably affecting our insurance rates too. And what else? That's the bulk of it. Just trying to figure out how to manage that.
Yeah, I would love some client feedback if anybody has some real world, had an employee like this or a situation like this.
I have a similar situation just happened to that. He's a sub, but he's been my best friend since 1978, so it's hard to do too much with him. But same situation. I mean, he was driving down the road, 18-wheeler took off the side mirror. Not really his fault, but I don't know. I wasn't there. He, was using my truck, and there's a dent in the back of my truck now. So basically, I bought a dash cam off of Amazon. It was like $80, and it's front and rear. You just have to run a wire back there, and there's some wires, kind of right there at the rear view mirror, but the rest of it's just tucked in the trim, and then the back mirror just sticks to the window. And so haven't had an accident since. So it's I don't know if it just makes them think about what they're doing a little bit more, but at least if something does happen, it's a quick, download the video and see what happened. Then you can decide, okay, well, was it his fault? Yes. Then maybe you start instituting something that they're responsible for the repair or the deductible or something like that to hold them accountable. But I think just having the dash cam up there makes them think a little bit about driving a little safer.
I'm assuming you can get some that you can view remotely, like download the videos remotely if you need to.
Yeah, so it's local Wi-Fi based, so it stores it on the SD card, and then you just turn the Wi-Fi on the camera, and you have an app on your phone, and just download the videos.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
Nice.
I think that's perfect advice, Jordan. And I think there is something to Big Brother is watching. I think there is something to that where people do tend to, they know somebody's watching, so they're going to do what is expected of them a little bit more. And it also protects them and you. If they get into a situation where it wasn't their fault, they're protected. So it's a benefit to them as well. If you need to have some type of, consequence, You always can. I think it is pretty normal to say, hey, happens one time, we've got grace. Happens, if it becomes a pattern, then that's when there needs to be some type of consequence, whether it's they're paying part of the insurance or they're paying part of the damages, something, the deductible. But I think just starting with the camera, Jordan, with this guy being such a great employee everywhere else, that might just be the extra accountability that he needs.
Sure. Yeah, sounds great.
But if you do it for one employee, I'd probably do it for all of them.
Yeah, I was thinking that. To be honest, I was thinking of putting dash cams on all of our vehicles because we're on the road so much, and it just seems like more and more things keep happening. And so we even had a situation with our best friends recently who were in a parking lot, and they were in the lane driving down, and somebody backed out really fast, and they lied about it to the insurance, and then they even got someone who wasn't even with them to call the insurance on their behalf to lie about it. And fortunately, they were able to get the camera, the video from the store, and it proved their innocence, and it changed how the insurance was handling it. So I've really been thinking about getting that for all of them, regardless, just because of the extra protection and liability that we can remove by having them there.
Yeah, Jordan, I don't think it would be something you would regret. I think it's only something you would regret not doing,
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Great question. What other questions do we have today? Burns, grievances, thoughts?
I got another one.
Go for it.
What stage and size do most people think about getting someone to do estimating and project management?
It's a great question. Any client feedback before us coaches get on a soapbox?
We do tend to take it away, don't we?
Mm-hmm. Chris, tell us.
Definitely.
Oh, we got two Chris's. That was my fault.
I didn't know if I accidentally had hit it. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Chris Anderson.
Definitely once you pass 750,000 in gross annual receipts, for sure, is kind of my take. We did it at about 600,000 in gross annual receipts. We added that project manager position, which ultimately morphed into an operations manager position, and then we have other positions too. But definitely by 750,000 for sure,
because
otherwise you're chaos.
Yeah, and I think, Jordan, just because numbers are going to be different for each business, when you get to the point where you are losing leads because you cannot get estimates back fast enough to people, because you cannot follow up with those estimates well enough, when you are staying booked out and you've got more opportunity to know what to do with, and you're missing it because you can't really implement your sales process, at that point, there's really kind of two options. It's either, do I hire an office person to where they can take some of that duties from me? They can help me implement the sales process, help with follow-ups, help with scheduling, help take stuff off of my plate so that I can focus fully on sales. If you already have that person established and you're still in that stage where you're like, I've got more estimates, I know what to do with, I'm running around like crazy, at that point, as long as your margins make sense, like your profitability, all of that makes sense, you're probably looking at either hiring a project manager so that you're not in the field managing jobs so you can focus solely on sales, or you're looking at hiring somebody to help you with sales so that you're still able to check on jobs and kind of do that project manager role. And there's also really not like a right or wrong here. It's kind of whatever you feel most comfortable, what role you want to be in the business. But that's usually the decision that has to be made at that stage.
Something I'll add. Yeah, something I'll add to that just a little bit is with service companies, I've found sometimes that owners are a little bit reluctant to give pricing in the hands of their technicians, and you should do that very early. Kind of when you have one or two trucks, have a way for your technicians to price, whether that's through buying a price book, utilizing a CRM software that allows them to be able to price in the field and just check and verify with you that once they put the price together. That should happen early for the service jobs, but for the bigger projects, you can still manage that for a while. And then I think somewhere around five full-time trucks would be a decent time. You could think about having a full-time estimator if that's not you, just running and doing estimates for the bigger jobs, not just for the, regular service calls.
Yes,
Yeah, makes sense.
That's a great point.
Estimators usually a commission, like fully commission based position generally.
Yeah.
There's different ways. I mean, yes, but also like with sales positions, you can determine how you want to pay that position. You can do a lower hourly rate with a lower, commission. You can do straight commission. You can do a merit-based pay structure where they get bonuses based on sales plus lower hourly. Like there's so many different options. If you want this salesperson to help you with like tracking, managing the CRM, like doing things outside of just sales, I tend to like having an hourly rate plus bonuses or a lower commission. Sometimes I think that the straight commission role tends to cause salespeople to be like, if I'm not out there giving estimates or doing a sales appointment, I don't want to do anything else. Why would I? I'm not making money unless I'm doing that. And so sometimes I tend to like having the lower hourly wage with incentives, with bonuses that kind of along the way, because that makes them not so like independent, But
sure.
Either way, it can work.
That's great.
Chris Hyatt, I'm guessing that's how you say your last name.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like the hotel, but with an I. Yep, that's it. I kind of. Oh, hold on. Let me put my seatbelt on.
Yes.
Question, I guess, on some of those things is like, number one, me and Bryce have been working towards like the cost plus. Like I did one yesterday from the markup and cost plus. It was pretty much the same, which doesn't mean that everyone is going to be. So I'm working through that. But one of the things that I always kind of struggle with is how, because service companies like HVAC, electrical, this and that, you have a price book, you charge XYZ $200. Like, it's paying, how are you paying your employees, by the hour, or is every job that they do is a certain percentage? Because I haven't yet grown to get that office admin, the extra people, so I have to be careful about how much extra work I put on myself. Hourly's been the easiest, but whenever I present a price to somebody, like Bryce, I was just telling you that that job that I did last week, it took longer because of the heat. It just took longer. So I made less profit because I pay hourly. And like maybe non-service based people, like, how do you pay your people, or even service based, and how does it work out? And like pros and cons. Because I also like, part of the job, hey, clean the trailer, charge the batteries, clean the shop, doing these things. And like, if I'm a worker, well, no, I want to be out doing work, not clean up. But to me, it's part of the job. But how can I say you have to do this, but you're only going to make money doing these things?
Dale Eads with Arnold's Plumbing, if you are able to put in the chat how you pay your guys, because this is something that you do a really good job at, is he guarantees them a certain amount of hours and pays them a certain amount, which means whether they're out running a service call or whether they are cleaning up the shop, this is their set hours they're expected to work. And so, Dale, if you'll just kind of type in what you do here, and then I'll let any clients that have feedback for Chris here.
Well, while you guys are thinking, I'll chime in a little bit. So we typically only see some sort of a commission structure if sales is also involved. So for a service company, if they have technicians that are pricing and then doing the job, then they get a percentage amount kind of commission structure of that pay. But for the most part, I would say a lot of people are either almost always going to be doing that hourly rate as well, because it does make sense, and you factor that into your pricing. I would say very few on the contracting side have I seen where they set up somebody on some sort of a salary for an employee. So I think, truthfully, most commonly would be the hourly rates. But if anybody has anything different than that, yeah, definitely chime in and tell us what you got.
Yeah, and Chris, one thing I would think about too is a lot of times if a job ends up taking longer than we originally estimated, either we estimated it wrong in the beginning, and that's something that we need to adjust. Maybe we need to, I'd rather under promise and over deliver with customers. I'd rather us wrap up jobs earlier than we originally anticipated. And so that might be something to look at, especially during the heat of summer, when things are going to be moving slower. The other thing, I would just make sure that change orders, that if something changes, if something unforeseen when you estimated the job comes up and it causes the job to go longer, that is going to change the price and timeline. And we've got to go to the customer. We've got to communicate that to them, what the new price and timeline is and why. As long as you're letting them know about your change order policy before you start the job, usually it's not a problem. They expect it, they understand it. It's all about setting those expectations. But if it becomes a pattern, Chris, where you're like, hey, we're consistently taking longer than I originally estimated, I would look at those two things. And it might be a combo of the two. Just so that you're not, I'd never want a job going longer than it should to eat into your profitability unless it's a we effed up.
Yeah.
We did something, so we had to eat that,
Yeah. With that too, something that I think Nicole said is really important is just seeing if it's consistent and then potentially changing your estimating based on that. Something I've had guys do in the past is to include somewhat of a safety factor, right? And then that whole under promise, over deliver thing. A lot of times when talking about doing that with guys, they'll really be resistant to it because they don't want to look like a customer saying like, wow, it's going to take you this long to do it. Well, if we frame it in the right way by saying, hey, we budget here, almost always we try to come in underneath. We oftentimes beat that time estimate and therefore also beat that price. But we say this to be safe so that you kind of know up front. Is another way of kind of handling issues like that.
Yeah. Dale put in the he pays guys 40 hours work week regardless of how many calls they run or hours they bill out. I incentivize them with bonuses for sales numbers or goals met. I do see that often with project managers where it's like, hey, if we get this job done in a faster time frame or in under budget, or if we hit a certain profitability number, I'll give you this bonus on this job. That's kind of a good way to incentivize a crew lead or a project manager if you're in remodeling. Yeah, Dale goes, I only guarantee their hours if they come in. That means that if there are no calls, we clean the trucks, the shop, we service the trucks, those types of things that need to get done. If I'm paying you, it doesn't matter what I'm asking you to do, really, we're going to get it done.
Well, a way that I was thinking of doing is like, okay, like some jobs, I do the estimating, but then, a lot of times on bigger jobs or other things, we sit down together and go through it. Hey, am I missing anything? Is this how we want to do this? Is there a better way? What are we going to use? Let's get a materials list, just double checking and stuff. And, I thought about saying, but this gets away from the hourly kind of, is that like, hey, we're budgeting X amount of labor hours for this job. And if we like, this is what you're going to get paid. So if we finish it faster, you're not getting docked, oh, we finished it 6 hours or a day faster or 6 hours faster. Like, great, this is your allotment of the labor money. And then if we go over, well, like you said, well, did it take us longer? Was it our fault? Hey, it took us longer, or did things happen and we, you know, kind of initiate the change order into motion there with the customer, and that's fine. It's just either way that like it's on me. You know what I mean? And that's, I guess that's what I'm trying to get away from, because it's like it's just adding another thing, adding another thing, adding another thing that you got to deal with, and you know, just looking for the best way for long term,
Yeah.
because that way you're controlling your costs more too.
You are, and I love that. Hey guys, if you get it, if you get something that I allotted 6 hours and you get done in 4, I'm not penalizing you. Like your pay is the same. You know, you get paid the same by the customer. You know, that's just incentivizing that work. We say the same thing with service guys all the time, where they're like, Nicole, I was only out there for an hour and I'm charging them $250. I was only out there for an hour. But then I have somebody, you know, the other companies, it would take them 2 or 3 hours and they're charging the same amount. Is the result the same? The homeowner, I don't want you in my house longer than you have to be in my house. Sorry. Like, as long as the result is what it is, just because you're more efficient at your job doesn't mean that you get paid less. You know, so use that as inspiration. I also see Dale put in the chat. I just want to reinforce this. For service guys, you do have to teach your guys how to estimate. Dale says that that's the way that he's free to actually manage the business, to be the business owner, to work on the business instead of in it. You will hit a time in your business where you cannot grow further. Usually I see it around like the 500,000 when we're getting a little bit above that. You know, if you're the only one estimating in the business, especially for service guys, you will not be able to grow further. Your life will be chaos. You won't be able to take a vacation. The business is going to get handicapped. And so, teaching your guys how to estimate, finding a software program that you trust, updating your price books, knowing your margins, that's really going to be, you know, a great way to allow the business to grow quickly.
To that point, I'll say that electricians tend to be the guys that I see struggle with this the most, where they're the sole estimator for their whole company for the longest. They're most reluctant to give that away. The other thing too is with price books, it's not a once and done thing. You get a price book and you're absolutely going to have to edit those prices, even initially, but then regularly keeping up with it. It's just one of those tasks you get to do all, you know, every so often, but that's 2 or 3 times a week versus 6 times a day that you're having to make a whole price. So
Jordan just asked a question in the chat, and then James, I'll make sure we get to you. But has anybody had any luck using a freelance estimator for in between growth stages? I would, if any client have, I would love for you to chime in first, you know, firsthand experience. I think it's typically not something that we recommend. Just you have less control over it. You know, I'd much rather see you building up an employee in the business, or somebody that, even if they're not estimating full time, but you can trust them to run some estimates or to help you out whenever, you know, things are busy and then they're out in the field. It's more putting like a band-aid compared to fixing the actual problem. But if anybody has, you know, a positive experience with that, I'd love for you to chime in. Josh.
Hey, so I mean, essentially, what Nicole said. Can you guys hear me good? Is it fine? I haven't used these earbuds before, so
yeah, we can hear you.
awesome. Hey, I'm with Nicole on this one. Don't do it. I have actually done this in the past, and like she said, no, they don't have accountability within your organization. They're out for themselves, so they'll sell a lead to sell a lead because they only get paid per close. Um, typically, the way that it's structured. So I don't recommend it. You don't know what they're really. I mean, unless you're really managing them like an employee, then it's just easier to hire somebody because you're just going to 1099 that type of sales guy anyways. So they're already not they're a part of your business, but not. So it's easier just 1099 an actual sales guy or straight commission than it is to try to hire out a freelance guy who just quote unquote knows how to close a deal. So
Yeah, love that input, Josh. Right there with you. James, I know I cut you off earlier, and so would love to give you an opportunity.
Oh, you're fine. I was just gonna say, you know, I run things. I mean, I'm in Texas, and we do things a little bit differently. I don't have any employees. Everybody's subcontractors, and so it's for us. Whenever, basically, when I'm estimating a job, I've known all my subs long enough that I know about what they're going to charge me, and if I question when I'm doing my estimating, I call and talk to them about the job and get a better number. But for the most part, when we start a job, I give everybody a work order and I say, hey, this is what I need you to do. This is how much you're getting paid. Here you go. Do you want to do it or not? If you don't want to do it, then I'll call another guy. But, you know, like I said, I've got relationships with these guys, so I use pretty much the same guys on every job. So, but then again, back to, I don't have a lot of equipment that I have to maintain or anything like that either. So I don't have to worry about getting a guy 40 hours and I don't have to worry about cleaning out a trailer. But I have, like I told you earlier, my friend that I've had forever, that he's, you know, quote unquote, a project manager. But he's kind of my gopher. So if I need a trailer dumped, he goes and dumps it. If I need some material ran, he goes and grabs it. And if I don't have anything for him, he sits at home. So, and he's okay with it. So that's how I do it. And is that going to be a long-term solution for Rocking J Construction moving forward? I don't know. Am I going to need to add some employees? Maybe. But from a subcontractor standpoint, you know, whether it's drywall, framing, whatever we've got to do, it's what works for us right now.
Yeah. James, I'm glad you mentioned that materials runner. I feel like that's like an underutilized position. A lot of my remodelers, they're like, you know, I just, so much of my day is I'm like, this piece of equipment or this piece of material. And it's like, you're the freaking owner of the business. That is the least best thing for you to be doing. And you can probably find a college kid, a retired guy. Like I have clients that have a friend, have somebody who's retired but doesn't want to sit at home all day, you know, has a college kid or even their son's home for the summer or whatever. A material runner is a pretty cheap position.
Yeah.
And then you're allowed to focus on estimating, managing the projects, these higher, you know, pricing, these higher activities for you to do that are actually going to allow the business to go forward. And so it's a pretty cheap position to fill. It's a pretty easy position to fill. And then you've got that gopher that can run in between jobs. And if they can even be a helper, like jump onto the job if they don't have any running to do, even better, you know. But I feel like that's such an underutilized position that can really build your revenue.
I've tried to get away from, you know, when I was doing that myself, but I also realized that now that a lot of my subs I've tried to go turnkey with. So I found that I could save a little bit of money if I bought, or I could save or make a little more money if I bought the drywall and just paid them labor. But then now that I'm running, getting material and doing all this stuff, and so it's easier to say, hey, what's your price turnkey material labor for drywall? What's your turnkey price for paint? What's your turnkey price for this? And then that way, if they're short, they go get it. I'm off. It's not on my plate anymore. Now then I will send Jason. I still have some stuff that we do like that, but for the most part, that's kind of saved a lot of headache with having to run around and do a bunch of stuff.
Love that. Kevin, I saw some head nods as we were talking, and now I see your hand raised. So would love to know what thoughts.
One way we kind of rectified that kind of issue is we get our subs to pick up all materials. They know what they need, they know what they want, and then they simply do a phone call or a text sale. We push the buttons or say yes, and if they forget anything, then they have to go back and pick it up. So I'm not paying anyone to pick it up, but it's their mistake. They can go back. I'll pay for all materials, but they kind of do that. That's one way we rectified that situation.
Yeah, I love that. Josh, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I've got a plumber that he only wants to go through his supplier. So he won't buy, if I buy something from like something quick from Home Depot. He doesn't want it from there. He wants it from that, and he wants this specific brand. So I'm like, just go get it. I'm not going to fight with it. So I think that's just the best way to do it. Let them put their own bids in for turnkey at all. It just makes everything so much easier.
Yes. Josh, I can't resist. Can you show us your little friend there?
Oh, man.
I know. Bryce probably saw me see him, and
I knew it.
oh my
God.
God.
In the lap, but I was trying to be respectful for the meeting.
Oh,
so
I love it.
Here, and he's doing the same thing. We're on the porch today. We just figured we'd hang out here while we're doing a little bit of paperwork. So
yes.
I broke my knee yesterday, so I'm kind of taking taking it easy day. So.
Yes. Well, I love it. I love seeing you guys with your, being able to take your dogs with you. I love that. What a life that dog gets to live, being with their owner all day. And, I love it. Thanks for sharing, Josh.
Oh,
What
thank Jordan.
what other questions do we have here today? Oh, Jordan, I just saw your chat. You're gonna make me cry.
Man.
I was just going to tell, like you were talking a little bit ago about somebody charging $250 for 1 hour and then somebody else doing the same job in 3 hours and charging the same amount and freaking out about it. Y'all have probably heard this little story, but it's a big ship owner has a problem and his engine won't start in a ship. So he calls a couple of guys. One guy's had like 35 years experience, and he comes in and he spends 10 minutes looking over the thing, and he takes a hammer and taps part of the engine, and the engine fires up and takes off. He leaves, sends the guy a bill for $10,000. And the guy's like, $10,000? You were here for 10 minutes. I need an itemized, invoice. And so he sent him, he's like, tapping with hammer, $10, knowing where to tap, 9,990. So it's not about, the time you spend, it's about the knowledge you have and how to do the job right and quickly.
Yes. 1,000%. Know your worth. Josh, I see your hand.
Hey, yeah. So I just want to ask about something that I've really been considering, but just as a thought. Hey, sorry, but what is everyone's thoughts on financing marketing? Instead of trying to take it out of your budget, and say you want to grow, instead of growing from naturally from 1 to 500,000, and then going from what is everyone's thoughts on going from 1 to $1 million in a year just by financing your marketing? Taking out a loan for strictly marketing purposes. Just curious, everyone's thoughts.
Anybody have any thoughts? We're pretty big believers here, Josh, about like funding your own growth. Now we're not Dave Ramsey where we're like, never take out a loan. Credit cards are Satan. Like we're not on that level by any means. If it's going to allow you to be able to make more money and you're going to be able to pay that off super quickly, that's a good investment. If it's going to allow you, like if it's, buying a piece of equipment that's going to allow you to make a lot more profit on your jobs, and you're going to be able to take that profit and pay off that piece of equipment quickly, like, yes, let's do it. Let's make that investment. Kind of same thing with your marketing. If it's like, hey, right now not being able to like invest in these meta ads is really preventing me from being able to grow a lot faster, then yeah, we can talk about options. But if you aren't running profit first, I would talk to your coach about it. And it may even just be opening up an account that we're seeding some money into with every deposit or every distribution. And that's our dedicated money towards marketing or towards something like that. And then you're funding your own growth. You're not you're not getting into debt or having high interest rates. So I would just kind of talk to your coach and see. I don't know if anybody else has opinions on that.
That works for me.
Yeah, good. Good. There are good investments in your business, buying that new van, and then you have somebody who's in that van bringing in over $6,000 per week. Like, heck yeah, let's get that van going. What other questions do we have here today? We've got a couple minutes.
I guess I'll add this just a little bit on what you just asked, Josh. If I was in your shoes, what I would do is very similar to what Nicole said, you know, seeding some money, putting it away for it. But for more immediate kind of effect, Google Local Services is one of the best lead generating platforms we've seen out there. You set a budget. It doesn't mean you're going to spend that budget, but if you do spend that budget, it's because you got actual legitimate calls coming to you for your business. I would just put the budget up pretty high on that and feel comfortable with that, because if you spend, you're going to be getting in return as well.
Well,
So we regularly have our people
as long as we're closing deals, you know, like
at a profitable rate.
That's a caveat to that. If some people get in this mindset, I just need more leads. I need more leads. I need more leads. And it's like, do we have enough leads, but our conversion ratio sucks? Our closing ratio sucks. Are the jobs that we're doing profiting? You know, we got to solve those things first. And if we have those good systems in place, then heck yes, let's invest into the marketing. Let's ramp up those leads if we have a good sales process, if we are converting well, if we have a good closing ratio. If all those things are going well, we probably won't have to take out a loan for marketing, because you're going to have the revenue to be able to fund it. And so that's why I'd really look into first, do I have the systems in place? And that's why before we start ads with people, like talking about AdWords or Meta ads, we have them go through an audit where they audit their sales process. They audit their CSR, the person who's answering the phone. We want to make sure, do we have the systems in place to make the most of this? You know, let's make sure our margins make sense, our ratios make sense, and then go from there. What other questions do we have today? I love seeing Cody with crisp HVAC. He's got his welding helmet on. And listening. It's welding helmet. Love it. Okay, guys. Well, if we didn't get to your questions, please feel free to reach out to your coach, shoot us an email. You know, be thinking this week, going into next week, what questions do I have for the group call? What wins do I want to share? You know, we love having these calls with you guys. The more input, the more feedback that we get, the better. So really appreciate your guys' participation today. Glad everybody was safe on the 4th. Kevin, I know that you were in Canada for it. I hope you still got to eat a hot dog, you know, see a firework or two, the good old American way. But we're going to close out this call with a big 3, 2, 1 growth. So if I could get everybody to unmute. And we're going to do a 3, 2, 1 growth.